Yeah, that's fine. I'll record the session.
Okay.
Just one moment. There we go. Sorry, I'm just having. There we go. Okay. Stop recording. Right, I'll need to dial back in because it won't record my audio because I'm dialed in on my phone. So, can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, and I need to dial out and use the Skype audio. So let me just dial back in so I can do the recording. 1 minute. I'll be right back.
Okay, waiting.
Okay, let me try it now. Okay, that's recording. Great. Well, thank you, Marta, Luca, Roberto, for joining. So today's session really is to take you through the Magellan BIN reporting part of the Magellan platform. So I know you've had quite a bit of training the last 2 days from Micah and from Arjun. So when we look at a AI platform, there's lots of different capabilities and functionality that that you need as part of a sorry, I just realized I'm not sharing desktop. You should be able to see my screen now. If you can't, let me know. So as part of a AI and analytics platform, there's a lot of different functionality and capabilities that you need as part of that platform. So on Tuesday, Arjun took you through the data discovery and the data science components. So that comprised of the notebook and the data discovery module. So one of those, obviously the notebook, is very much geared around data scientists being able to create machine learning models, and then the data discovery module where a knowledge worker can use a drag and drop interface to access those published machine learning models, rerun those and refresh the insights from those, but also to be able to do lots of other analytical analysis, whether it's statistical analysis, whether it's just exploring the data and segmenting the data, or doing more sophisticated analysis like machine learning. Then yesterday, Micah took you through the text mining component where we are able to crawl or analyze any sort of unstructured content, whether it's ECM stored, whether it's web content or social media, or just simply some text files. And the idea there is to be able to extract relevant information and make it human friendly to understand what are the most important aspects and information contained in there around a given use case. In addition to that, we also have all of the infrastructure and security elements, which if we haven't been through you already with you already, that will certainly form part of the deeper training that you'll be doing in the weeks to come. We also have the open source technologies, which Notebook and Spark are part of, but the majority of the technologies within the Magellan platform, or at least half of those, are still using proprietary technologies. Once we've extracted content from the unstructured content, or we've built some machine learning models, the next logical step of that, and often the last step of that, is the visualization piece, which is where we have the BI and reporting component. So the visualization is where typically end users, it could be end consumers, so for example customers of a bank who want to view their online statements and their transactions, or it could be managers who want to look at performance metrics around their sales teams, or whatever it may be. So the BI and reporting platform is very much often the last part of an analytics project where things are visualized. So I don't know if anyone's taken you through this slide already, but the Magellan platform is really geared around enabling different user profiles to be able to leverage different aspects of the Magellan platform. So starting at the bottom, we have the notebook, we have Spark, the machine learning libraries, the Hadoop platform itself, and that's more geared around technical users and more specifically around data scientists. So we wouldn't want to put that in front of a business user who doesn't understand coding, who's just going to get frightened by that. So it's very much about, Magellan is a very diverse and dynamic platform. It contains a lot of different capabilities, but the functionality within Magellan is really, it depends on the end user, which aspects of them, those components are going to be used by which users. We then have the data discovery module, as I talked about earlier, which is a drag and drop data discovery interface. It does have analytical capabilities and advanced analytical machine learning capabilities, but you don't need to have a technical background to be able to understand which machine learning models to choose to apply to your data, or what statistical analysis to run. It's very much geared around knowledge workers being able to analyze the data that they have, that they already understand, for some standard, simple, or even more sophisticated analysis. And then we have the end users, the end consumers of all of that information, and that's where we use a BI and reporting platform. So within the BI and reporting platform, we can have more advanced technical users developing reports and other content, but there's also self-service capabilities built in within the BI and reporting platform as well, which any end consumer of that information can leverage using just drag and drop capabilities to build custom reports and custom dashboards. If there's any questions at any point, please feel free to stop me and go ahead and ask. Oops, I make this as dynamic as possible. So just to go through a very high level architecture diagram of the iHub, or what is now called Magellan BI and reporting. I needed to change that. You will probably only come across the name Magellan BI and reporting, but the old name for the platform was called the iHub, or Information Hub. So we can connect to just about any data source. So we have out-of-the-box connectors for certain data repositories and data sources. We have JDBC and ODBC drivers for connecting to things like Postgres and other databases. You can connect to XML, and of course we can also leverage unstructured content, but obviously the way we leverage unstructured content is typically in a database format, like in a RDBMS sort of format. In terms of the design part of the BI reporting module, we have the Analytics Designer, which is also the link that Roberto sent out earlier for you to download and install. And the Analytics Designer is a very comprehensive IDE environment, so that is where a more technical and more advanced user would use to start building dashboards and building custom reports. So the designer, we leverage HTML5 for the visuals, so that comes with a lot of different capabilities, very nice visuals, and lots of different components that you can leverage as part of those visuals. It also comes with things like responsive design. So when you're designing reports and visuals rather for different devices or different screens of different sizes, whether it's going to be visualized on a laptop screen, on a monitor, on a handheld device, the responsive design obviously is a big advanced functionality that really makes the visualization piece much more attractive to the end user, much more user friendly. Within the IDE and also within the front end designer as well, you've got the ability to create custom dashboards as well as custom reports. And within the designer itself, within the analytics designer, you've got a lot more capabilities around what you're able to produce in terms of the reports, in terms of being able to embed into existing applications using JavaScript, for example. And you can run different scripts within that as well. But it is more of a advanced user interface. And in terms of the design phase, the typical, once you've connected to a data source, we create a data model, but to leverage the real power behind the BI and reporting platform, we use something called data objects, which is but essentially it's a in-memory, it's a cached data asset. So it's contains the data mart, it contains the underlying data source information, and all of the categories and hierarchies that you've designed as part of the data modeling phase, all contained within that data object. But because it runs in memory, it's obviously a lot faster when you're rendering reports and dashboards. So then we've got the deploy phase. So we're using XML designs for the reports and the dashboard. And then I'll talk about the scalability of some of these other things in more detail later, so I won't go into them too much now. But then we have the web tier, which is the where the end consumers are going to be actually accessing the end deployed reports and dashboards. As I mentioned, whether that's on your mobile handheld devices, phones, tablets, or on laptops and monitors. We have got the ability to do a lot of other customized elements, like there's interactive reports. The dashboards can also be edited, and all of these different aspects can be enabled or disabled based on what the administrator wants to do with each individual groups of users or individual users, and obviously for things like security around data access and user access to different folders and different reports is all controlled by the administrator as well. In addition to that, of course, we can also leverage things like Active Directory or any other directory protocols as well. So one of the components within the BI and reporting platform is within the front end in the web interface. We now have a front data preparation mechanism. So here you're able to connect to different data sources as you can see. And I'll take you through a demo of this a little bit later on as well. The idea really here is that if you've got less advanced users who want to be able to create their own data, they don't want to be using an IDE like the Analytics Designer, because then they don't have the technical skill for that. So this enables someone to just simply create some data, join the data, create a data model. You can also add things like hierarchies and categories within here. You can create new computed columns, adding filters, parameters, and all sorts. So it actually adds a lot of advanced capabilities, but in a much more user-friendly interface. And the data that you create can also be shared with other users as well. So once you've created the data, it's not just data for you, it's data that you can share with other users or other groups of users. We also have the self-service reporting, or the Analytics Studio as it's called. So again, this is accessible through the web layer, through the iHub portal, and also the BI reporting portal rather. And here you've got a lot of great functionality. You won't have the advanced capabilities of what you do within the Analytics Designer, but again, it's aimed at a business user who has access to some data, whether that's data they've created using the data preparation functionality, or it's just data that's accessible to them, that's already been loaded by connected to by a more advanced user, but they can essentially start creating their own reports and embedding visualization into those reports as well. So it could be tables and different types of charts all contained within there. And all of this, all of these reports and visualizations that they create can be shared with other users. You can also bookmark different elements of those. So if somebody creates a chart, they can bookmark that and share that with other users, and then they can leverage that in their own custom reports. And of course, you can also share by emailing or downloading as PDF, etc. as well. There's a lot of different capabilities within here, things like you can create custom new columns, computed columns, you can add filtering, aggregations, drilling down capabilities, etc. as well. We also have the dashboarding part of it, so it's very similar to the Report Studio, but the idea here, the focus here, is more on dashboards, and we have some advanced filtering options which make the dashboards a lot more user friendly to the your typical sort of business user. But again, you've got drill downs within here. You can also drill through to underlying reports, and as you can see, there's a lot of different out of the box chart options within here. We have also recently included some additional chart options which you don't see in the graphic there. I'm just trying to remember what they were. They're a histogram and a tree diagram, and I think there was also one other that's not coming to mind at the moment, but those were the two that a lot of customers have been asking for some time. So there's a lot of different options out of the box available. And then we also have the big data pipeline. So what we're leveraging here is actually some open source technology, so Apache NiFi, and this is really bringing in ETL capabilities into the Magellan platform. So you're able to leverage a lot of different capabilities from Apache NiFi to create your own data flow, so connecting to a data source and then adding lots of different workflow elements and processes into that. So it's really adding a lot more power. So this is actually accessible through the web layer as well, but it's not geared towards a business user. This is really more of a technical interface, so it's something that someone more technically advanced would be using. It's not geared towards business users, even though it is available through the front end web interface. So as I talked briefly about earlier, we can leverage just about any data, whether it's structured data, it's proprietary data, it's data from your SAP and Oracle systems, or as well as unstructured data. So for example, for the Baker Hughes POC, we'll be leveraging content that's unstructured and then extracting relevant information from that, writing that information to a database, and then of course we can leverage that through the BI and reporting platform to start visualizing it in a dashboard where you can start filtering on your data and bringing up a list of all of the relevant articles or documents relating to that. For example, in one of the use cases where you want to identify clauses that are non-standard, you can do that quickly by adding some filters and filtering down on some of the content, and it will bring up a list of all of the welding specifications that do not contain that contain non-standard welding specifications. This is a completely enterprise grade infrastructure is extremely powerful. It's actually very low on resource as well. As I mentioned earlier, in terms of the user experience and how the restrictions around the different data, or who can access what dashboards and reports, that it is role-based. So it's a very personalized environment, and from an administrator perspective as well as from an end user perspective. We can, and this is something that when you go through your training, there'll be a lot more in-depth training provided by our professional services team, but they'll go through things like the clustering and the high availability and how to set up a clustered environment, but that is also available and obviously required from a performance perspective, depending on the client's use case. As I mentioned, is very scalable. The underlying technology is near linear scalability, so it is very powerful, and is really aimed at high performance and large enterprise grade use cases. And then, of course, from the security perspective, as I mentioned, we can leverage things like Active Directory or LDAP and whatever directory protocol your customers are using for access management. So one of the biggest benefits of advantages of the Magellan BI reporting platform is its open and flexible environment and architecture. We basically build the product around APIs, so we what we call API first design. So the whole platform is built around being open and being able to leverage APIs to bring content into the platform, or enabling others to leverage content from the BI and reporting platform and embedding it into existing applications, for example. So we have the industry's widest range of APIs that can be leveraged as part of the Magellan BI and reporting platform. Whether that's for embedding into applications, or to bring in custom visualizations or messaging, things like that. And I'm going to go through some demos later as well, and you'll see a lot of different examples where we're leveraging APIs for different purposes, whether that's for existing other open text products like AppWorks platform, or in the case of things like the crawlers, or for embedding different visualizations and things like that. I've just gone through this, but really just sort of focusing on the way that we can use and leverage APIs to embed into existing applications. And one of the most important things when we're talking to customers is to be able to embed visualizations, reports, dashboards into the applications customers are already using. So for example, in the case of Baker Hughes, rather than having a whole different system and application that the end users who are looking through the welding specifications, for example, they don't necessarily want to use an external system and have to be trained up on that. If they can have a dashboard that's embedded into their existing application that they're already familiar with, that's a lot more powerful, a lot more easy for them than having to look at a whole different system that's not integrated in any way. So the embeddability is actually a big, very, very important part of the BI reporting platform. This slide I won't go through because I've really talked through most of this, but or all of this rather, but this really is just a summary of the key functionality and key selling points of the BI and reporting platform. And lastly, before I move on to the demos, the idea behind Magellan really is that we're trying to help customers move from what we call generation 1 analytics to generation 3 analytics. Generation 1 was really all around very simple data types and data sources. It was, I think, very structured data. It might have just been very transactional data. Everything coming out of that analysis was human oriented, so the analysis itself was human oriented. The actions coming out of any interesting findings was all carried out by human beings as well. When we move to generation 3, we're looking at much more complex data sources, so things like social media and other unstructured content. Even the structured data is a lot more complex, IoT data, for example. And the analytics, we're trying to automate as much as we can for a given use case. So the benefit of that, of course, is everything is much quicker, much more efficient. There's less risk of human error coming into it. And of course, the actions that you take from this are also then automated as well. So you can have data being processed as it comes in through the Magellan platform. That can then be run through a machine learning model to make a prediction. The prediction can then be output onto a visualization like a dashboard, and then from the dashboard, when there's certain triggers, so data points are going above or below certain thresholds, that can kick off a workflow, and then an action is carried out by that workflow. So you're getting a whole end-to-end string of actions, which are completely automated, or automated as far as the business is willing to allow. So this is what we're trying to help our customers to achieve. So if there's any questions, please feel free to stop me, otherwise I'm going to go into the demo part of the session. Okay, so I've come into the we've got the Magellan Launchpad, which I'm sure you've already seen a number of times, and we've got the BI reporting platform, which is the one that we're going through today. So I've opened that up, and in fact, let me do that again. So once you load the BI reporting platform, you've got a number of different links on the left-hand side. Your applications, these are in the designer, which I think Micah took you through yesterday, as part of the text mining framework. When you've created a project like we have here, you can go to the server and you can actually publish the, I don't know if I'm connected, well, I am connected to something. So you can actually publish a project simply by just dragging and dropping that onto the server here. So once you've published an application, so an application would just simply be a project. So text mining for Baker Hughes could be one example of a project. Those projects or those applications then appear here. So you can simply click on an application, and then it loads the first visualization that you've asked it to load. In this case, it's a dashboard. And then what we have here is also different things that we're able to do. So you can create new data, which is the data preparation that I talked about earlier. You can create a new report, which is using the Report Studio. You've got the creating a new dashboard, which uses the dashboard designer, and then you've got your new data flow, which is the Apache NiFi element that I talked about earlier. So the first thing I want to show you is how to create new data. So again, if you imagine a business user who doesn't have the technical capabilities of being able to use something like the Analytics Designer, and they just really want to use something that's point and click, drag and drop, very easy to use, to create some data, to join those tables up, and to do some other manipulation of the data, so they can start using it to build custom reports, custom dashboards. So I've got some, again, I can connect to all of these different data sources. We've got the post, lots of different out-of-the-box connectors, or we can of course use our sample data, which is what I'm going to show you now. We've also got the ability use any locally stored documents as well, or data rather. So we've got various different data tables in this sample database of ours. So I'm just going to load our customer data, our orders data, and our order details data. Now you can see there's 13 columns, there's 5 columns, there's 7 columns in the orders table. We can preview the data as well. So the customers data table, when we preview it, looks like this. So you've got lots of detailed information, address details, the country, the credit limit, and things like that within the customer table. So I've selected these 3. Actually, if I go back to the customer table, no, sorry, that's fine. So I click on Finish and Prepare Data. So I've now got sorry, let me just go back. I think I didn't select one. Customers, order details, order. Finish and prepare. So I've got my 3 data tables here, my customers. So again, I can review the data. So for example, if I don't want the name, the contact's actual name, I just want the customer name. I don't need any of the address details. So I've removed all of those, disabled those columns. If I go to the column selection, you can see they've been hidden or disabled. And I can change the type of the data, but all of this is right. But obviously, if something's incorrect or I want to change something, I can do that. And we can change the type of the data there as well, whether it's dimension, measure, or attributes. If we want to create a new computed column, we can create that as well. And we can also add filters to our data right from within here as well if we wanted to. So I'm happy with my various different data tables that we've got here. So I'm going to save this design, and I'm just going to call this test 1. So if I go to the join of the data, so now we've got the ability to actually join these different data sets. So I've got my customers table. I want to join this to my orders table, where I've got it's already identified the columns that it's noticed that look similar. So that's the customer number, that's the unique identifier. It's going to use an inner join, so we can click on done. And then I want to join my order details to my orders table. Again, you selected the inner join, and it's going to join that on the order number. So it's created those for me. I'm just going to save that again. So I saved that back into my iPortal. So if I go to my user data and the demo user, that's my username here, demo user. So each of you have got your own users created for you. So under user data, you'll have your own user name there. When you click on that, it's now saved the data here that I've just created, test 1. So now I'm in a position to start leveraging that data, so I can create a new report using that data. So here we are in the Analytics Studio. This is where we can create reports using the front-end interface. So again, the Report Studio is going to be used by a non-technical individual, although technical people can of course use it as well, but more technical individuals will probably use the Analytics Designer. But this is ideal for someone who doesn't have a deep technical background and just wants to use drag and drop and mouse clicks. So I've selected the data that we've just created, the data model here. If I click on OK, I can see my data model, and within the data model I've got the 3 tables, the customers, the order details, and the orders. So I can start to build a report. I can also add visualizations into here as well. So we've got our out-of-the-box charts, as I mentioned, the histogram, the tree map. And we also have word cloud. That was the other one I couldn't remember earlier, the word cloud. So I can start, so for example, if I want to have my customer name in my report, and I'd like to know the status of my different orders. We can also add the price, the quantity that the customers ordered, and obviously I can keep building this out. I also want to add my order number. So once I've started to produce my chart, I can add the change settings. So I can call this orders table. As I mentioned earlier, when you create any sort of chart report or anything like that, I can add a bookmark. So if I was to add this as a bookmark, I could then enable sharing of this report or visualization that I'm creating, and other people that I share the bookmark with will also be able to leverage that custom table or chart that I've created and use it in their own custom reports or custom visualizations. And we can also select a style for the border. Just want a dotted blue line, and if I click on apply, it's now changed that for me. You've also then got the ability to edit through here. So if I want to add additional columns, for example, I want to add the shipped date. I can then add that in, and I can create some custom measures within here, add some measures within here as well if I want to, and also filter on data as well. What you can also do is, I'll add my credit limit in here as well. We can also filter on data. So, well, first of all, I want to create an aggregation. So I want to aggregate, sum up all of my credit limits for my different customers. So this would be total credit limit, and I want to add this as a footer. So click on OK. It's now added my total credit limit. I can also do, for example, if I wanted to do an average of my price, I can add that in as well. So you can see there's lots of different options on the aggregation here, what you want to choose to use. But then we've also got the ability to filter data. So for example, if I wanted to say I want anything that is not between, say, 50,000. Also, let's do less than 100,000. This is now filtering our data for us on any credit limits under 100,000. We also have the ability to create new calculations, and you can do groupings and all sorts of other things within here. You can also freeze data column and data rows as well. And as I said, you can also add visualizations into here as well. So if I wanted to add a bar chart, again, I've selected my data, and for example, I want to see my order date by month. So you can see it's already built a hierarchy for my my date column by years, quarters, months, weeks, and days. So I want to select months, and I'd like to know, let's have a look, the quantity ordered by date. And that's now, I think there's only a little bit of data, but you can add charts and other things within here as well. So once you've created a chart or your visualization, you then have the ability to save that. So again, you can open the report up at a later stage. You can keep building it, or obviously you can share it with other users. So there's lots of different functionality within here, and obviously we then have the dashboard as well. So if I want to create a new dashboard, very similar sort of to what the Report Studio that I've just shown you, but there are some additional capabilities within this. So I'm going to create connect to my data source that we were just using earlier, and again I think I'll just create a similar sort of order date, month, and we'll create this based on the price per month, by month. So I've created just a very simple chart here, so but we don't know what we're looking at because there's no title. So I can go back in and edit this. So actually, rather than seeing it as a bar chart, I actually want to view it as a line chart. You can also do filtering on the data if you wanted to. We can give it a title, or I can just put auto title, so that will use the data columns that you've added in here and use that for the title. We can change the theme, so it's just a light green right now, but we've got one called the OpenText theme, so I'm going to choose that. I'd like to add a legend in here in the top right as well. You've got the ability to customize your X and Y axes. So if I click on OK, this has now changed it to the line chart. It's added the legend, is also added the title here for us as well. So we're looking at the price by order date by month. If I want to add another chart into here, so let's say we want to look at let's see by country. We want to see what's the quantity ordered by country. And we also want to know this, we want to group this by status. And again, we'll use the OpenText theme and apply a title. So I've clicked on OK. I can move these gadgets around as well. So as you can see, it's moved the other one back up here. So we've got the quantity ordered by country, and it's grouping it by status. So you can see there's 32,000 that are shipped. There's 469 resolved, 1,700 are on hold. So there's lots of different options, as I mentioned, in terms of the charts that you can do. But we can also filter on the data very easily as well. So for example, if I just want to focus on these, the ones where we've got quite a high volume of data like US, I can select this, just click on that, and you can see I've got this option here, cancel and apply. If I click on apply, it's now going to add a filter for the USA. As you can see here, it's added one filter out of the 27 countries. We're now filtering just on the USA. I can also then say, well, actually I want to look at some others. So for example, Italy, and I can add in Italy, and it's going to filter on that as well. If I want to remove the filter, I can just click on the cross and it's removed the filters. Now when you I can also multi-select, so I can select USA, Sweden, France, Austria, UK, click on apply, and it adds all 5 of those for me. When I save the dashboard, it will actually save the filter status as well for me. So when I load the dashboard again, or if I share the dashboard, it's going to save the custom layout and the filters as well. You can also change the layout. So for example, I might want it as a free stack of charts, so I can add another one here. You also have the ability to add external things like HTML, add additional gadgets and videos, images, all sorts of other things like that. And if somebody has already saved a gadget previously, you've got the ability to add that gadget in here. So for example, there's one here called revenue by product line, and that was created by another user. They've shared it with me, and I've got the ability to add that into here. And if I would like to, I can make some changes to this as well. to make it more custom to the way I want to look at it. So that's the dashboarding and the report studio that I showed you earlier. Are there any questions so far?
No, it's clear. Thank you.
So I'm going to move over to more along the demo side now. I spoke to Micah yesterday, and he advised that he's taken you through the text mining framework, which was something I was going to cover, but he advised he's already gone through that with you. So I'm going to use most of the rest of the session just to take you through some example demos that we've created in the past, really to help you understand some of the sorts of capabilities and functionality within the BI reporting module, but also to give you some ideas of what the art of the possible looks like, and give you some ideas for projects that you might be considering for this module. And really, I guess what I wanted to show you really was not just the end visualizations, but how we're able to embed and integrate different technologies, whether they're open text technologies or external technologies. So for example, this dashboard here, you can see that we've actually embedded a Google Maps within this dashboard. So this is fully interactive. It's you can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can go to Street View. This is actually showing vehicles, so like a ride-sharing company, and it's showing the availability of vehicles within a certain area. So you can see green being lots of vehicles available, and orange not so many vehicles available. So this is sort of a map that would be very helpful for being able to plan resources and understand where the demand is for those resources. Now within this, we've got a tab called forecasting. Also, what you'll notice is we have the ability to, so within here we've got several different links. So for example, we can link to BDA, which is the Magellan Data Discovery module. BDA is the old name for Magellan Data Discovery, so I can go directly to the Magellan Data Discovery interface from within the dashboard. So I might be an analyst who's looking at doing some analysis and want to do some forecasting on my vehicles, where the demand's going to be, so I can let the operations manager know where to allocate vehicles to. So I can go straight to the Magellan Data Discovery module and go straight into it without having to, go to a different platform and load it up. I've got the ability to just click on that and go straight into it. So within the Magellan Data Discovery module, obviously I've got the machine learning models here. So once I've actually run these and updated so for example, we've got one on product recommendations, we've got a forecasting one with weather. Once I've actually run this and the data's been written to the database, we can refresh that data through this dashboard here. So this little widget here actually uses that machine learning model to provide an up-to-date weather forecast for the next 28 days. If I click on this, you can see it's added a gadget here for the weather, but it's also added this purple line here, which shows the demand that we're forecasting for our vehicles, i.e. this is like an Uber style or a Zipcar type company, and we want to know how many customers we can expect per day based on the current weather forecast that we're using, that we're expecting. So not only are we integrating things like Google Gadgets, but we're also embedding machine learning models directly into here, which are then you can see the end visualization that's improving a business analyst or an operations manager's ability to understand what they need to do with their assets. Another example here is more of a KPI dashboard, so a similar sort of type of company, but what they're looking at here is so going away from the operations manager, we're now looking at it from a maintenance manager perspective, and the maintenance manager wants to understand when vehicles need to come in for service or for repair. And obviously the last thing any end customer wants is for a vehicle that they're sitting in, that they're on, going to a meeting or in a rush to get to the airport or to the train station, and then the vehicle breaks down. So the maintenance manager is trying to reduce the chance of that happening and optimizing the performance of their vehicles by understanding which vehicles are most likely to need a service. So what we're actually doing here is, again, we're leveraging machine learning models that we're running against our vehicles to look at various different metrics using IoT sensors, so things like the engine temperature, the oil level, the water level, the conditions of the brakes, how many miles they've done, and things like that, to determine which vehicles have the most chance of needing service and also when they need to come in for. So for example, this vehicle here, there's a warning on the brake fluid level, but the fluid pressure and the oil pressure are fine. These two vehicles both have warnings on the brake fluid pressure. So we know exactly what we need to do. We can order the parts in advance. We can make sure the right mechanic is available to take care of this type of work. So we can optimize our future planning of maintenance and also our allocation of vehicles. So I can update this sort of report, share it with our operations manager, and then the operations manager knows how many vehicles are going to be out for service and how many vehicles are available to be used for the business. So that's an example of how we can leverage a KPI style dashboard, and all of this is completely we've got filters on the right hand side. So for example, if I wanted to look at a particular make, like, let me just refresh this. The idea is that all of these dashboards are completely engageable, so you can click on something and it will filter the data based on that, and we can look at the model year, for example. So whatever filters you want to filter the data on, it might be you want to look at brake pads, and you want to understand how many brake pads you need to order for the following 28-day period for next month coming. So based on this, you'll be able to determine how many vehicles need to come in for brake pads. It doesn't seem like there's many, but so if we look at clearing the make and the model, you can see there's actually quite a few vehicles that have got brake pad problems. So again, helping with forward planning of our business. The next example, something I talked about earlier, which was we use HTML5 charts, which comes with responsive design. So if I was to resize this, you can see right now we've got 4 tabs along the top, and then we've got these 2 side by side. But if I then resize this, you can see using responsive design, it's now 2 by 2 tiles, and this is now going to 1. So again, if somebody is viewing this on a tablet, it's going to resize based on the size of the screen. If they're on their smartphone and a much smaller interface, it's going to reduce and obviously resize the gadgets and reposition the gadgets so it's more easily visible for those users. So a great excuse me, a great functionality that's provided by HTML5 charts, and also they do look very competitive in terms of the way they look compared to our competitors' products as well. This is another example where we're showing a lot of security integrations into here. So for example, if you imagine whichever bank you bank with, and you want to check your spending on your account. So here we've already logged in into our online portal, is recognize that it's me, it's not somebody else, so it's only going to show me my spending across the various different products that I've got. So I've got a credit card, I've got a savings account, and I've got a checking account. So I've got 3 accounts with this bank. It's only showing me my information, my spending. It's showing me the spending for this period. I can also filter on this very easily just by saying, well, I only want to look at my checking and credit card data, and I want to look at just the last 4 months of data, so I can zoom in very easily on that. We've also got a range changer here as well, so again, if I want to look at the last 4 months, I can filter on the data here. We can also select certain categories as well, so if I want to look at where my car spending, my entertainment, my phone and restaurant spending looks like, it's filtering all of the data very quickly for me. We can also drill down on data, so when you create, so in the same way as when I created the data in the data preparation earlier, but also when you create data in the designer, you can add hierarchies to data. So if I click on the entertainment, it's drilled down to the individual merchants where I'm spending my money on entertainment. It's not showing restaurant spending, it's not showing the car or phone spending, it's only showing me the entertainment now. What we can also do though is I can go back to the higher level again, but once you drill down, you can actually drill through to an underlying report. So in this case, it's going to take me to my credit card spending reports. So these are the various different reports that I have, so checking, credit and savings, but I want to view my credit card statement, and now it's showing me my credit card statement for that period that I've just clicked on. So even though we're in a dashboard platform, we can drill through to things like reports that we've created. Now we've got the ability to enable interactivity on this, which is already enabled as standard on this particular report. You can disable it altogether if you don't want somebody to go and customize it, but interactivity enables you to do a lot of different customizations. So you can sort, for example, if I want to sort by the amount that I'm spending, or I can filter data. So for example, anything greater than say $80, it's now showing me just the spend that I just want to look at where I'm really spending a lot of money. And we also have lots of other things that you can do here as well. So similar to what I showed you earlier in the report studio, so you can add grouping, add and change columns. You can also hide columns, or you can show columns. So as standard on this report, we're only seeing the date, the description and the amount. The person who built the report has hidden the category column, but with the interactivity enabled, I can add that back in. So now I've got the category in here as well. But of course, if I wanted to, I could just filter on entertainment and automobile. Okay. And it's just showing me the spend for automobile. And there's lots of other. So you've got the aggregations, the formatting. You can add conditional formatting on here as well. So for example, if you spend over $100, it'll color it red, for example. You can format the type of data, whether it's date or numeric or currency. You can also switch this view to a chart view. So actually, let me switch back and remove the filter. And if I switch view, it now shows me a chart instead of a table. So we've got lots of different things that we can do within this. Another thing that you can do is you can export this content. Of course, you can save the custom layout that you've designed, but you can export this content to Excel, PDF, PowerPoint, Word, lots of different options here. if I save this to Excel, one of the options here is enable live formulas, which I haven't actually got in here. So let me add a formula in here. So let's just do an aggregation. So this is adding a total spend here for my 4 categories that I've selected here, 5 categories. If I now export the content with the Excel and enable live formulas, once I click on OK, it's exporting to Excel. I can open this up. Enable editing. Now what this is doing is save the layout, is save the customizations that I've made. So it's not showing me all of my transactions, it's just showing me the ones over $80. It's showing me the aggregation at the bottom. But what it's also doing, you can see it's rounding the numbers for me, so it's recognized that it's to 2 decimal places, so it's rounding that for me. But also this aggregation I created is a sum. So if I now go and change something here, so let's make this 80, you can see the total has changed. If I make this 100 or 1000, sorry, you can see the totals changing as well. The great thing about this is that any customizations that you create in the report here, they follow through. So you can do what if analysis, which is something that a lot of users using the Report Studio and the reports within the BI reporting platform want to be able to do. They don't want to just have customizations and changes on the BI reporting platform. They want to be able to export them and share them with other team members, and to be able to create to continue the what if analysis in Excel or whatever it is that they're using. So that's another great added feature and functionality of the BI reporting platform. Another example here is, we've got various different charts here. We've embedded a heat map, so one of the other visualizations that we have as a custom visualization. Just refresh this again. So again, what we've created here is a framework for this type of dashboard. So the framework here has embedded all of these different widgets on the left with different links to different dashboards or different types of information and content, or to different parts of the Magellan platform, like the data discovery or the notebook. So these sorts of frameworks can be very useful for different customers for different use cases. Now, one of the things I talked about earlier was the ability to embed and integrate to different applications outside of the BI reporting platform, or even outside of the Magellan platform. So on this marketing tab, the idea here is that a marketing analyst has identified that a particular product isn't performing very well, and we want, so this investment ISA product, we're spending a lot of marketing, but we're not converting many of these investment ISA products to actual wins, only 0.2%. And what we've actually done is, in the data discovery module, we've created some profiling analysis which uses some statistical technique to identify attributes of customers that are the most important in representing the investment ISA customer. So I can edit this dashboard. The editing functionality, again, is something that you can restrict or enable for users depending on what sort of level of access you want for them. But I've got the ability to add gadgets that have been created by somebody else. So the individual who created, so in let me show you. So any analysis, I don't have anything in here. So just bear with me. Essentially, when you when you create some analysis, you've got the ability to publish the analysis. Let me show you. I'm not sure if Arjun showed you this or not, but he probably did. But I'm just going to show you again, just so it's fresh. So this is an example of profiling. So what we're doing here is we're looking at our investment ISA customers, and we're looking at various different attributes, whether age band is an important characteristic. So what attributes of age band are important in defining our customers who are investment ISAs customers. So for example, age band actually doesn't seem to be very important. Okay, so those aged over 75 or aged 30 to 45 are very important because there's a star next to them here. So as a business user, I don't need to understand what profiling is in terms of how it's calculated or measured. I just need to be able to understand the output here that has been created by the statistical technique here. So as a business user, I can see very easily that this age group is important, and then these income bands here are important. So earning 35 to 50,000 and 50,000 to 75,000 is very representative of my customers who have investment ISA products with us, the bank, and also being full-time or self-employed as an occupation. So I can publish the insight from here back into the Magellan BI reporting platform. So in the BI reporting platform, I've got that gadget here, which is the investment ISA demographics gadget. So if I click on OK, that's now added it into here, but in a chart format. So I can as a business user, this is much more easy for me to understand, a bit simpler than looking at all of this text and the stars. So having it just as a bar chart is a lot more easy. So I can determine the same information, but looking at my dashboard, which was just showing me descriptive analytics before, it's now telling me some very deep insights using statistical analysis. So I can now look at my spending on my marketing by age and by income band and compare it to what my statistical profiling here is telling me where I should be focusing my marketing. So according to the profiling, I should be spending my marketing on customers within these two income bands, the 35 to 50,000 and the 50 to 75,000. If I look at where I'm currently spending my my marketing on income bands, well, the 35 to 50,000 is the orange. So in 2017, I was spending quite a lot, but I've actually decreased the amount I spend in 2018 and also 2019. If we look at the 50,000 to 75,000 income band, let's just hide the others, which is this grey one here. You can see again I've decreased the spend in both of these income bands. So I can very quickly, as a marketing analyst, understand what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong and where I need to focus my attention. So having discovered what I need to do, I've got a workflow integrated within here as well. This is using AppWorks platform, which is one of OpenText's products for workflows and scheduling. If I click on this, it gives me the ability to create a new marketing campaign for the investment ISA product. The data segment I've got is called Recommend ISA, which is coming from my database here in the data discovery module. And I can schedule to run this either now or on a periodic basis. So if I want to run this every day, I'm going to be getting new marketing data coming in to the business every single day. So I want to be able to run this marketing on a daily basis with new data, new customers. So if I click on OK, that's now sent for approval. And here in the AppWorks platform, if I refresh this, you can see the one that I've just created, 12th of December, which is today. Investment ISA, recommend ISA campaign. It's been initiated. There's 269 participants in that campaign. I can also see the status of the various different other marketing campaigns that are ongoing, completed or initiated. So I can look at all of the completed ones here and see how successful they've been in terms of conversions based on the size of the bubble. And I can also see all of the other different campaigns that are ongoing and when they're due to start and complete. So having this integration here is actually very, very useful and very, going back to the slide that I was talking about earlier about automating insights and automating the actions coming out of insights. This is all part of that. And of course, I've clicked on this I've manually created this workflow, but we can automate this whole process very easily, either through the BI reporting platform or even through the data discovery module, because again, I'm not sure if Arjun went through this, but there is a workflow and scheduling capability within the data discovery module. So anytime we have some new analysis that's coming out of the machine learning models, we can automate the actioning of those insights. So once the machine learning models been updated that day, we get a new data set of predictions for a given customer, for a given product, and then we can use the AppWorks platform to automate creating those marketing campaigns and targeting those customers with emails or letters or whatever it might be. Of course, we're using the AppWorks platform as the demo here, but this could integrate into any other workflow or scheduling software. Another aspect of this is so actually a bit more relevant to the sort of use cases we've been talking to you about is, and I think Micah showed you this already yesterday, is what the text mining dashboard looks like. So we've built a framework for text mining analysis, so using whether it's documents from an ECM repository or text files, or coming from an email or other repository, or it could be social media or whatever it might be. We've got a framework that captures the data from the text mining engine and populates this dashboard as it is. So we're looking at all of the documents. There's 13,000 documents. We could focus just on documents stored in the refresh this, excuse me. So still loading, but we can focus just on documents stored in the ECM repository, which is 53 of. We can filter by the tone, whether it's negative, positive, neutral. We can filter on the date, the categories, or the concepts. We can also add other items to here. So just because we've only got category and concept, we could add things like entities. We could add thresholds for the entities or the categories, or the sensitivity on the sentiment. We can do lots of other things. This is just capturing some of the key metadata that we wanted to for this. We could also add, the author or the last modified date or anything like that within these filters. And of course, then we've got the word clouds like the entity analysis, showing the word clouds. Same for the concepts. We have a sentiment analysis dashboard here. So this is showing you how the sentiment changes over time. So for example, if there was a big peak, as there is here in negative sentiment, this would allude us as to that, there's been a problem. So we maybe need to look at, was there a problem with our operations? Was there something wrong with our website? Are people complaining about the price, that maybe we've increased the price or something, or there's been a quality issue? So these sorts of dashboards are very insightful. And of course, we've got the word cloud here as well. So the word cloud further helps us to understand the sorts of things that were being said, which could allude to the actual problem that's happened. And of course, these words could be coming from emails, it could be coming from documents that have been sent in by customers or sent out to customers. Of course, they could be coming from social media or from other web content like news articles and forums. And then we've got the metadata stats tab as well. So here is showing us an overview of the documents, a type of documents. Most of these are PDF, the size of documents by date, and the other high-level metadata here as well. If I go back to the demo that I was showing you earlier, a sort of natural improvement to that dashboard would be that if we have identified a problem, we've got a workflow integrated into here. We can select the team. So for example, there's been a problem with the website, so we want to create a new action for the web team, for the web developer, and we could select simple bug fix, or we can put added information, and we can say application page of ISA product not okay. So we've added a comment. If we go back to our AppWorks platform, this time we're not looking at campaigns, we're looking at the suggestion box. But you can see the one that I've just created, sorry, that's not the one I've just created. This one that I've just created, 12th December web developer application page. So you can see the comment that I've added. So that will now be added to the workflow, so the work list for the web team, and it will come up in their assigned jobs that they need to look at to try to create the problem. So again, we're trying to integrate as much into this as we possibly can. You can also see at the top we've got a link to the customer portal. So this shows what the website looks like from an end consumer perspective. So when customers are logging into our bank's website, this is what it looks like. And if we want to do some marketing testing to see what our promotions look like to different customers, we can go in and view that sort of example as well. We also have, we can integrate this into an email or to some other messaging platform to show, and you can see your different notifications and see all of your alerts. And then we have so we've got something that we call Tech Tracker. This is the idea behind this is to look at web content, social media around mobile devices and determining the sentiment around those devices. So what we did was we created a custom taxonomy for the different devices, and we've got entities for the different devices, and then different our own custom taxonomy or categories for the topics, so things like battery life, features, apps and games. And the idea was to just look at which are being discussed most in terms of positive, negative or neutral sentiment. So you can see we can filter on just the last 30 days, and of the 625,000 articles, we're left with just under 30,000, the majority of which are negative in sentiment, which is not unexpected. We can see word clouds here, which we can play over time to see how things are changing on a weekly basis. We could do this on a daily or monthly basis or an hourly basis. And we also have a heat map here, which shows where those mentions are coming from, or it could also be showing what countries or locations are mentioned. So if you want to track sentiment for a specific region, for example. And then you can see we've got the sentiment by product and by different topics, and also media breakdown. So this can show you if there's been particular good or negative sentiment from individual media sources that you need to try to improve relationships with, or try to understand why you're getting such negative feedback from, Yahoo, for example, in this case. And what we're also able to do is, if I click on the Galaxy Note, for example, I get a deeper breakdown of this product, but I can also compare this to another product, for example, the Galaxy S10. So I'm getting a direct comparison of these two products by the various different topics. So we can see that the Galaxy Note 10 Plus has got more negative comments around battery life, also around colors, but I think slightly better in terms of support. So you can see this gives you a very good understanding of where you compare to your nearest competitors or to other competitor products, and can help you understand what you need to work on, what do you need to develop to be closer to your nearest competitors. And then we also have the privacy and data governance dashboard here, and this is all around, of course, with Europe we have the GDPR now, so we have to be understanding and compliant according to GDPR regulations. We need to be able to understand where personally identifiable information is stored, what type of content information is stored, and making sure that it's stored in the right and a compliant way. So this is showing us a breakdown of all of our information by type of source, so content server, other documents, Documentum, another file share. Is showing us that almost 50% of that content contains some sort of PII. And we've got our risk level here, which is 4.2 out of 5, I believe. And then we've got a Sankey diagram here. So what this is showing us is, if I click on content server, which is 33% of all of our information, it shows that the various PII information. So you can see 8% is absence and leave, 36% is disciplinary and grievance. If I click on disciplinary and grievance, which is 36% of that data, you can see that a third of that is stored in content server, 46% of that is stored in file share. So you can look at it from either perspective, or where is PII stored, or which repositories store what type of content. That's PII. We also have the PII information here by category over time. So for example, if I just wanted to look at just the performance records and the special categories, you can see that, for example, performance records went up a lot up until 2008, then dropped down and started increasing again. So maybe this is something we need to understand, why it's increasing so much, and trying to tackle that challenge, because we don't want to store too much information that could land us in trouble. We can also get a breakdown of the type of entities, so address, bank accounts, credit cards, etc. And this is actually one of the most common use cases as well that we're getting from our customers right now, because PII and GDPR are such big things right now, and obviously will be for the foreseeable future. So customers are really struggling with this whole aspect of understanding where that information is stored and what they can do about it. So we're really being challenged by our customers to come up with not only identifying where that content is stored using Magellan text mining, but also new ways of being able to show that onto different dashboards and being able to engage with that information and interact with that information. So this is a great example of how we can do that. So we've got different documents here. So if I click on one of these, it will update the information in this lower end here. So you can see it gives us a breakdown of the document, the categories within here. You've got the article body here. If I then if I hover over one of the entities, it actually highlights it in the article body on the right hand side for us as well. So I think this is the sort of visualization or almost that you're looking for in one of your use cases that you're looking at with Baker Hughes. So we've got the entities, we've got the concepts, so you've got the simple concepts and the complex concepts, again highlighting in the text where it is. Also tells you the number of documents that are protected, and there's 17 different PII entities that have been identified here. If I just go back, if I click on one of these addresses, for example, or credit cards or whatever, if I click on the address here, what this is going to load up is a network node diagram, and it will show the link between the 333 Clay Street and all of the other different entities. So you'll have to excuse it. It's quite a large and complex diagram, but you can see 333 Clay Street. But this yellow line shows all of the different interactions. So 333 is linked to this document here, this document here. Also this document, but it's also linked to normally it doesn't seem like there's a phone number or anything for this individual, but you normally see the phone number that person's linked to as well. So you can see that address is linked to 525 people, 44 email addresses, 10 URLs, and 36 phone numbers, and so on. So you can see where those mappings are and who is linked to who else. So for example, I've just clicked on Kevin Finnan, and you can see this document here and this document here are related to that individual. So this is a good way of being able to do some investigative information, analysis, and to identify PII and how it's linked to other entities, which can also be a good way of looking at fraud as well. And the idea here is that, of course, I'm looking at this manually, but we could set up machine learning models that could do the analysis on this and make inferences on this and make predictive decisions like is somebody at a high risk of trying to carry out some fraud, for example. So that's that was actually the last example that I wanted to go through today. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to go through those. If not, I will take you through the next bit, which was the exercises that I wanted you to try to have a go at between now and tomorrow's session, and then during tomorrow's session, if there are any questions or any difficulties, we can go through that as well.
Yeah, sorry, for me it's not very clear where the dashboard, let me say, takes the links between the page of the document with the text and the extracted concept, entity, and so on. I don't know if I explain.
Sorry, so you don't understand where the link from the Magellan, the content that we're extracting from Magellan Text Mining is, and where that's going from there to the end dashboard?
Yes, exactly, because it's not a structured data, so I guess I don't have a table or something like that. So how can I automatically create the highlights, for example, of the concept that you showed before?
Yeah, okay. So I think Micah went through the Magellan Text Mining framework yesterday, but this is essentially the framework here. So in the designer, we've got this data source that's he's connected to the Magellan Text Mining database, which is a Postgres database. So when we extract content from the from the documents using Magellan text mining, what we're essentially doing, bear with me. What we're doing is we're extracting the concepts, which is the first thing that we do when we extract when we start analyzing documents. The first thing we do is extract concepts which are based around nouns. So that's the first part of the extraction, which is using the concept extractor. Once we've got the concepts, we extract candidates that we believe are entities. So entities are linked to the authority file, and then we extract the categories based on taxonomies. That information is written to a to a RDBMS database. So when we do extract all of the text from the document, but we specifically write to a database concepts in a concepts table. We extract the entities to an entities table and the categories to a categories table, and then we also write the sentiment. We write the sentences to a sentiment table or to a sentences table. So all of this is actually written into a database, which is what we're connecting to here. So if I then go to, for example, my categories data table, this is what it looks like. We've got a document ID, which is the individual PDF or text file or whatever it is. So that, here you can see there's 143 files that we have we've processed through Magellan text mining. We've got the category that it falls within. So IPTC, you've got LC, TGM. These are different taxonomies, different that we're using. That this is being written against or compared against. Then we've got the ICD. So these are all different names of different taxonomies. This is
yes. Okay. Yeah. Yes, my doubt is not this one. It's just how can the dashboard understand the location of the concept because before you click on a concept, for example, and on the image of the text, the dashboard was alight on the concept, on the word that expressed the concept. So, but where is, because we have tables with a sort of list of concepts, okay, but we don't know where these concepts are written in the text, or yes.
Oh, okay. So that's
the position is my. So my question is about the position on the text. Let me say.
Okay. So you're talking about this one here. You're referring to this, right? So this is, I think, I don't know if John's still on the call, but if he is, I think this is using JavaScript to. Let's have a look.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd have to open up the. I don't have access to this. The backend for this. I don't have access to the designer for this report because this is a different environment. But I'd have to. As far as I know, this is using JavaScript to determine the location of the text on this. So this is a custom script that's been written for this.
Okay, and is it something already implemented in BI and reporting, or there is something custom that needs to be created from scratch?
Yeah, it is custom. It's not a out-of-the-box functionality. It is something that's custom written. So a lot of the advanced capabilities or functionality within the designer is it is custom written, and you can add that in here in the scripts part of the report design. So I'm just thinking if there's any examples in. Just bear with me. So there is this. Okay. Detail. Yeah, I can't find the code for it, but as I said, it is custom code that has been created. It's not something that's out of the box. But with the Magellan text mining framework, which we have installed on the POC environment for you, that this is what the actually, this won't load because I don't think we've connected to. Oh, actually, it does work. Okay. But as part of the framework that we've built for the Magellan text mining framework, that highlighting facility, that functionality is actually part of the dashboard. So that script you've already got built into the framework that we're providing you. If that makes sense. So the functionality isn't part of the out-of-the-box offering for BI and reporting, but the Magellan text mining framework, which is this database, this dashboard here, and also the basically.
Here we don't have the highlighting. I think it's only in the demo related on PII and the other related to the probably. Well, I don't remember the other, but the PII that you shown, so the privacy POC or demo, as this highlight as well the text mining. And I don't know if this is included, this piece of code is included inside the dashboard from the text mining framework.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure it is because this framework is the same framework that we're using in the POC, okay. and this one, as you can see, is highlighting the text. So I'm pretty sure. I'm not going to say 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure it is included, Roberto. So
okay, very good. We will check when we take the time to open it. Okay, very good. Because one of the for sure for this pilot, for this POC, we should be able to create some custom behavior. It's not just a dashboard on the extraction. So probably, I don't know if in the exercise or later we see where to put our hands. I mean, we don't need an exercise or whatever, but at least to understand if the coding is done when you use Analytic Designer or the web part of it or both. So where is the? Yeah.
So you can do either. So you can actually add in HTML content within here. So oh, that's right. So so you can add some HTML content in here. So you can put it into the dashboard designer here, or you can add it in into the actual report design within the designer. So there's two different ways of doing it, but that part of it, Roberto, will be that's a much more advanced capability. So that will be part of the training rather than.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Okay, no, just to know what is going to today's and next material that you are going to share. I know that Reply as well is going to apply for some advanced training probably in January, so it's just to know the starting point.
Yeah. So while we're talking about that, so the enablement, there's 4 different exercises for this. So there's the analytics designer report creation. There's the report studio dashboard creation. There's a report. There's report studio report creation, and then there's the data preparation. So there's 4 exercises. I'll load these to the to the core share. But essentially, when you click on each folder, there's in this first one there's some designer project. So this project goes into the workspace, and then you have to load it, import the project using this facility here, and then you can start working on the project. All of the information, sorry, wrong one. All of the information is contained within the document here, so it will tell you step by step what you need to do. So if you've got any problems, I mean, this is pretty well documented within the Word document. But if you have got any questions, feel free to email me, or you can give me a phone call. Same with the next one. There's a document. There's no more data for this. I think the data is already part of the standard out-of-the-box data set that we provide. In the data preparation, there's 3 tables or 3 CSV files for you to load. You can ignore this PDF and this for now. You just need to look at the data and do the exercises in the Word document. And then you've got the report creation in the Report Studio. So again, they're all step-by-step instructions on what to do. So the idea is we've got a session tomorrow. We've got 2 hours tomorrow in the calendar. So I thought, rather than spending those 2 hours going through the exercises, if you can go through the exercises between now and then, if you've got any questions between now and the session tomorrow, you can, as I said, you can email me or you can call me. I'm happy to help with any questions, or to get on a Skype, and we can screen share, and I can help you. And any other questions we can cover in tomorrow's session. But I won't be presenting any new material in tomorrow's session, so it really is more about, if you've got any questions about the BI reporting platform, I'll happily answer any questions there, and anything to do with these exercises that wasn't clear or you weren't sure on, I'll either answer before tomorrow's session, or we can go through them on the call tomorrow. Is that okay for everyone? So I'll upload these to the core share. Roberto, does everyone have access to that? Or
I was muted. They have access to this share. Yes. No,
Okay.
where did you put file custom? Are you going to put this core file in the core enablement training folder?
yeah, that's where I'll put it. Yeah.
Okay. Then I just share with them the download for the analytic designer. Okay, let's see.
Yeah, so if they can install that, again, if there's any problems, let me know, but there shouldn't be. You probably need to be an administrator to run the service.
The machine, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a local installation only. They don't need any database, because you are pointing to the local file with data,
Yeah.
I think, and they don't need a license file, even with this version, which I downloaded from support. Correct?
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
Okay, no, because in the past there was also the trial on site, but it was from server point of view. I think the designer it is always free.
Yeah, yeah. So it should work. If there is a problem, just let me know. There shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna upload
Yes.
these to Magellan in.
Yes, this is the folder that they have in sharing with us. So okay, if you put here, they can get it. So okay. So Marta and Luca, do you have any question? Ok, fai l'esercizio.
Okay, so I'd like to know these, and like I said, please let me know if there's any questions. I'm more than happy to help with anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you all for your time, and hope things were clear.
Thank you to you, Shia. Thank you so much.
You.
So,
Okay.
see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye bye.
Tomorrow.
Bye. 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 Bye.